is Angelique, and I'm here with my co-host, tattoo, future model, husband, tech guy, and all that, and...
John C. Luna, and my titles keep changing every show, every week, but it just means we're really busy and very creative, so...
Well, of course, because mine's is just simple. Certified kink educator, entertainer...
Tantra practitioner,
and spiritual worker.
And coach.
Coach, yeah.
We do too many things.
But we have a fun guest today. I am so happy that Miss Amy Taylor reached out to us. Hey, how are you?
Great. How are you guys doing?
Good. Tell us
Good to be here.
about your whole resume and things, because I'm reading and I'm like, I'm not going to do any justice. I know she'll do better.
Yeah, I'm jack of all trades, master of none, right? So, yeah, I've done some stuff. If you follow my Instagram, I've done some modeling, been on the covers of lots of stuff, and Maxims and FHMs and Playboys, been inside Sports Illustrated, plastered my half-naked self all over and in lots of stuff. You can see all that on the old social media. And I did that part-time always while going to school. So yeah, I studied science in undergrad, found out I didn't really like working in science. So then I went to business school, got a graduate degree. That was helpful, but I found being a freelance on my own was much more fun than being a corporate person. After trying the corporate world once, didn't really like it. So, and then I was flying planes for a hobby while I was working in the corporate world, found out I really loved that. So I decided to get a bunch more pilot's licenses, commercial licenses, instructor licenses, couple type ratings. And so I also fly planes, and I teach people to fly planes, which is really fun. It's world's beautiful from above. You don't see the problems, you just see the beauty. So I think that's probably why I like that. And so yeah, so I do lots of stuff. And then all of that stuff is fueled by my main consistent gig, which is that I am the companion to a small group of wealthy men who want to date and want to share life together and do not mind providing for the women that they care about. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Well, every time I hear the word companion, I automatically think Firefly Inara.
Yes.
That's what I think when people say companion, because that's what she did, and she always went to all these fancy parties. So I'm guessing it might be similar, that you get to go to these nice parties and events, or it's just quiet night at the fireplace eating food.
Yeah, sure. Some of the stuff is fancy. Some of it's real fancy. I will miss it when it ends. You have to remind yourself that that's their world, not mine. Sometimes it's not fancy. It could be like Netflix and ordering Shake Shack or pizza, Postmates. While these gentlemen are wealthy that I've known over the many years, they often live normally too. They just want to, like I said, Netflix and pizza. But sure, I think the private jet stuff is the part I'm going to miss the most. That's really nice. And, it's a neat peek into their world. It's not that their lives are problem free. It's that they don't have the problem of lack of luxury, let's say. So that part is fascinating. That's probably, I think the world is probably fascinated with companionship because of that. You're basically talking about good looking women and wealthy men, and who's not fascinated by either of those things? Because you're peering into their world. And maybe that's fascinating for me to peer into their world. It probably is. Sure. But their lives are not problem free. They just, their lives aren't perfect, despite what maybe people would think if they're envious or fascinated. But yeah, parties, sure, like galas, opening nights of opera, ballet, museums, restaurants, sporting events. Yeah, you go to that stuff. Sure. It's fun.
But
it's fun.
Do you often see yourself like also part therapist too? Because you're listening to them, also cuddling them, holding them, because I know there's professional cuddlers because some people miss the touch.
Right. Yes. Oh, I think that professional cuddling thing is fascinating. Like, I've seen some, yes. I mean, okay, so we can talk about the human touch. And yeah, people go straight for like sexual stuff, strippers and lap dances and all that stuff. Great. Sure. People need that too. But yeah, you'd be surprised. Like what a back scratch can do for a person who's got a migraine and a lot of stress from running a bunch of companies. Like, and listening. And our world is so distracted now. I think I'm probably in the business of just listening a lot because nobody listens to anybody anymore. And how sad it is that people will pay for that. There's maybe something's wrong with the world that people are so desperate to be seen and heard. And yes, therapists, I'm not qualified for that. I'm not a doctor. I'm in no position to do that professionally. But again, just seeing somebody and paying attention to them can do wonders for someone's soul. Sometimes, ironically, some of the ones I've known for over a decade are therapists to me when I have problems. The relationships are absolutely real, even in the confines that either party has the right to leave whenever they want, and that we are not going to run away together, and that there is the requirement that they help support me. What they're really just doing is liberating my time so that I'm available on their schedule. Because if I had a bunch of jobs, our schedules would never match. That's what they're paying for. But yes, therapy for sure. I think you're right that it's part therapy. I think it's also part art. Mm-hmm. And by art, I mean, you're sticking your neck out and doing something creative and vulnerable, and somebody's going to like it and somebody else is really not going to. That's what I mean by art. I don't mean painting or sculpting. But I view it as kind of an art, and there's people that respond to it and are evangelically into it, and it sort of saves them and they love it. Mm-hmm. Those are usually my clients and my colleagues. And then there's people who really vehemently detest it. And I think a lot of art is like that, right? It's like your podcast. You put your neck out there and sometimes you get your head chopped off and sometimes you don't, right? Yep. That's what being vulnerable is. Yeah. And I think it's really inherently human to want to connect and to stick your neck out in that way. This is the way in which I do it. I find it very satisfying. And a handful of other people do, and a lot more do not.
Well, I think we specifically America have such a bizarre view on sex where it's pushed into our face constantly. We're constantly showing it on TV, on ads. I went into Subway. There was a Budweiser ad of a woman in a bikini in a waterfall. It's there everywhere. And then when you actually want it, you want the intimacy, you want that stuff, you are told you have to find one person, they need to satisfy everything, and if you don't get it. That's why most people end up cheating. They start with that great concept of that and then can't quite hold up to that high level. Now, in other countries, I know specifically European countries, liking sex is not something to be shameful about. It's very open. Politicians have mistresses in the open because, hey, they've hit that status. You know, they don't have a lot of free time or whatever the situation is. And it's not hidden and pushed under the table and thought as shameful. It's just accepted that we're humans and this is what we are instead of some religious view of what we should be.
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's tenuous, right? Because for that politician, in that example, does his wife like it? Maybe in some cases she's fine with it. Maybe in some cases she's only tolerating it because she has to. And so if you think about morality, I think the only morality is sort of consent, right? Do no harm if possible. And the hard thing is to assert your needs without infringing upon the needs of another. The idea, so this monogamy thing we've set up, which is very good for raising children, it's going to subjugate someone's needs. Like you said, how do you supposed to find one person and that's going to meet all your sexual needs? You're both going to want sex at the same time in the same way. You're both going to want to fuck each other for like 30 years, even though it's the same, and never want anybody new. And so what are you going to do? Thank you, because they don't like the same kink you like, right? You like anal and they hate it, or you like BDSM and they hate it, or, you know, they got the wrong safe word that's a turn off for you. I mean, 8 million different, it's ludicrous to think that somebody, you know, is going to be that compatible. That's ludicrous, right? That it's going to be that perfect all the time. And so what do couples do? Right. Some people swing. Some people, they get in fights and then they make up, and that kind of drives some passion. Many people cheat. people sometimes get divorced and marry a new person, and then it's new for a while again. You get all those chemicals again. I've stayed single because I'm terrified of the whole thing. I don't know how sustainable that'll be. We'll see going forward. But on the other hand, pair bonding, at least for a while, is good for raising offspring. There's plenty of data on that. Stability, sort of having this fantasy of permanent bonding. It is great for offspring that need a lot of care, and human babies do, right? They need a lot of care for many, many years before they're ready to survive. Oh, so you see the same thing in birds, right? They pair bond and they raise these eggs. They get it, but there's all kinds of shenanigans that go on with birds too. There's tons of cheating. There's tons of, they're very much like us. And there's, but so maybe Dan Savage coined a term called monogamish, which I thought was really genius. You guys, I assume this is your best friend, right? Your partner in life. You guys are right, yeah. But sometimes you want to fuck somebody new, right?
Yes, we do.
I like pizza, but I don't want to eat pizza every day for the rest of my life. Right?
Absolutely.
You need some variety.
And that's fine, and it doesn't mean you're leaving. It doesn't mean this isn't your person. Hey, hold my hand, idiot. We're going to do life together. You can have both, but we're just not ready to talk about that. And it's fear-based, because the idea that you fuck somebody else, you might actually like that person better, and then you might leave. And everyone's afraid of abandonment, right? We're all human. We're all afraid of being abandoned. And good sex can sometimes lead you to think you might rather be with that other person. Not just for sex, but for life. And that's very scary to a person that loves you and doesn't want to be abandoned. So I understand what people are afraid of, but I don't think that hiding our heads in the sand and creating an entire society that's full of, like you said, lies, that we like sex, but we're terrified of it, and we criminalize some forms of it and socially reward other forms of it. I don't think this is working. It's creating a lot of misery. I think there's got to be a better way. And you referenced some European countries. I think some countries are navigating this space in wiser ways. And we could take a hint, perhaps, in this country. I think some people are waking up to that. Maybe.
We're hoping. We are seeing more of the rise of polyamory a lot. As well as open relationships. Mm-hmm. But just going back, we like to relate a lot of things to food. I'm Italian. Everything gets related to food. So
sounds good.
I had to tell someone, I said, okay, imagine instead of marrying someone and only being able to have sex with that one person, imagine only being able to eat the foods that you both like. So if they don't like apple pie and you love apple pie, you're married. Apple pie's off the table.
Yep.
And everyone said, hell no.
Yes. Of course. Or only being able to eat when they're hungry.
Oh.
Yeah. You can only have any food when you're both hungry.
Yeah.
You're hungry, they're not, you starve. Good luck. How long is that going to last? And I believe that sex, for some people, is just a real physical need. Mm-hmm. It's not always about love and intimacy. It can be. But some people just want to get off and then go to work and start their day, and they feel more ready to tackle the world, or they want to get off before they fall asleep, or sometimes it's as physical of a need as thirst or hunger. And to deny somebody that, I think is cruel. I think it's really cruel. In Holland, they give vouchers to some of the physically disabled people to be able to visit sex workers, because they understand that those people have less access to sexual partners, and that it is a human need, and that giving them access to some of the girls in the red light area is a way for them to receive human touch, sexual and non-sexual. They view it as sort of a humanity issue. And they think it would be insane to deny people that. I think that's so evolved compared to how we are in this country.
Oh, completely there. Absolutely. And so in Holland, sex work is very widely acceptable. Like you said, there's a red light district for that. And so how is that, different from over here, especially when it comes to activism?
So what I know a little bit about, it's decriminalized there. It's not without its problems. It is an industry, and it's got labor issues just like any other industry. So there are bad actors, there are abusers, there are like men who run the little red light district apartments, and if you don't do what they want, they up your rent or evict you, and they use their leverage to either get sex or get money. Or there's bad actors like there are in the clothing business and in agriculture and in tech companies.
Business.
Yeah.
Right. So, but they address these as labor issues, which I think is the correct way to address them. They don't criminalize it, drive it underground, and let bad actors have even more power, which is what happens when you criminalize something. There's no way for workers to go after bad actors because they're petrified of having problems with law enforcement or legality themselves. So they let the abuses run wild with this. That's what happens. Always. It happens with the drugs, and it happens when prohibition, when we tried that in America. So criminalization does not work. We already know that. So they address it differently, but they continue to have problems. Australia, not every not every district in Australia has decriminalized it, but the one where Sydney is that New South Wales, Queensland? Forgive me, I've forgotten the name.
Queensland's, yeah.
I think. Can't be for sure. We'll be there next year.
Right,
but we'll
where
figure
Sydney is. Oh, I'm jealous. Are you going?
Yes, we're going for a wedding, and one of our friends is getting married. So, yeah.
I'm jealous. Have fun. Send pictures. I'm jealous.
Lots.
But yeah, so they've done it, and they continue to have sort of labor issues, as does Canada, but they're at least trying to address it, and they're realizing that criminalization just makes everything worse. So the problem is, as we were talking about in the beginning, is norm enforcement. The psychological leap it takes to view something as a real industry when it hasn't been is very difficult, right? Weed had a long struggle to become legal. It's still not there federally in this country. There's, I think these things take a lot of time for the culture shift. And sex is a very special thing in America, whether, as you touched on, it's because of religion or just general discomfort. I think we could get there, but some people fight it real hard.
Yep.
So I don't know if I'll ever live to see it, right? Even polyamory and open relationships. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that you have to be careful who you tell right when you meet them, right?
Yes,
oh, yeah.
Absolutely there. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll continue on with this sex work, activism, and more. So
be right back.
Hey, John, I want to get a new toy.
Okay, so let's go to Fair Villa.
But I don't want to waste time trying to find out what goes with what.
Well, there's Fair Villa University, and their staff is very well educated and helpful.
Okay, but how about if I just want to go to a party instead?
Then go to their website, because on their calendar they list all their events.
But I don't want to spend a lot of money.
Have you heard of their loyalty program?
Oh yeah, that thing on my keychain that makes everyone blush every time they see it.
That's the one.
Let's go.
Well, they have over 5 locations in Central Florida. Which one do you want to go to?
Fair Villa. For pleasure, fun, and fantasy.